Alright, so decided to strike while the iron's hot and get to the Flayer dungeon when it is in a spot that I don't need to go through the Great Marsh to get there. So we already saw the Flayer dungeon, Flayer Jungle rather. So I'm just going to do some quick back tracing here, thanks to Vigor, to get there a bit faster. So there's three things we might want to find here in the Flayer Jungle. There is the waypoint, there is the Gid bin, and there is the entrance to the Flayer dungeon. Now, it would help if our Merc didn't bug out, so I'm gonna go get him real quick. So, here we are. If you're wondering what Flayers are, that's the guys we're fighting right here. They're gonna switch names shortly. These fetish rats, soul killers, flayers, whatever you want to call them. They're fast, but not particularly dangerous just yet. Their undead versions are a lot scarier, and their shamans can be dangerous, but besides that, it's usually not too bad to go up against them. You do need to be worried about just getting overwhelmed because they can be hard to run away from. But because they do this where they all run at you. But if you can stand your ground and fight them, it usually works out pretty well. By now, ranged classes probably have enough AoE to just melt them all as they come in. So they're probably not as worried about the rush as you would think. These stashes have a habit of taking forever to open. I don't even think they're hurting our Merc. There are the shamans, which I would like to leave to our guy here. Thank you, Mr. Merc. Again, it's totally possible I'm overreacting, but really for hardcore, a lot of it's just minimizing risk, and that is one potential risk, so I'm just not going to do it if I can avoid it. Which hopefully by now is understandable. Again, I am totally willing to be called a coward. I do not care. I know one potential solution to this would be to have put points into fire resist aura, which definitely is viable and would help. Swampy Pit is not what we're looking for, but here is the waypoint. Usually the fake one, the fake zone you're looking for. Like we were looking for the Flayer dungeon, which can look similar to that. If it's not the real one, usually the waypoint's there. But what I was saying is, I know some people like to just get 1 point in all these, and then just switch based off the act. Like in Act 2 you'd have resist lightning on. Here you'd probably want resist fire, that whole thing. That's definitely viable. I've just avoided it by being extra careful around those mobs. At this point, at 21, it might be better to just wait until 30 and put 1 point into salvation, and then just leave that on if I'm worried about particular fights. Like if we get up to 30 before we fight Mephisto, it might be good to have a point in salvation, because then his lightning will be less of an issue. His lightning and his cold. And his poison, for that matter. Mephisto's a very elemental heavy boss, so as long as you have enough resistances, he becomes a lot easier. So it might be worth it to turn off my offensive aura just for added safety against him. There's a lot of stuff here. Here you are seeing the strength of Zeal. Rather than having to just slap one of them one at a time, we can start chopping our way through here. Again, Zealots don't have like a cleaving effect like, say, a Whirlwind Barb has. Although, of course, a Whirlwind Barb wouldn't have Whirlwind at this point. But just in general, Zealots aren't AoE focused. They're mostly single target. Although, they can spread their single target around without too much hassle. I'm going to back up here because there's two of them. You be a doll, Mr. Merc, thank you. Okay. So we're still looking, we found the waypoint, we're still looking for the Gidbin and the Flayer Dungeon. Our Merc deal with him again. Nothing in there. It's usually in these little alcoves that you find everything. That's why I am taking the time to check all the nooks and crannies. No plus skills on there. So there is a here's the don't get surrounded bit I mentioned, but as you can see, they're not doing too much to us right now. The main danger with that is getting surrounded, and then the shaman walks up and just goes, "Hey, I hope you like flamethrowers," and then you get incinerated. So this is usually where the Gidbin is, in this little village area. There is a super unique, but he only spawns once you actually pick up the sword, or attempt to pick up the sword. So if we just clear out the rest of the area first, which our Merc is handling all the shamans for us, then we should be okay. I don't remember the super unique being all too dangerous. Okay, there's the Gidbin. And there's a Flayer Dungeon. So, just need to get this first. I want to deal with him. I wish our Merc wasn't getting stuck on a wall. There we go. Just decided to bite the bullet there. You can see the issue though there is our Zeal started to split onto the guys he was reviving. So that is one of the worries, is getting up to the shaman and then not even hitting him as you get flamethrown. So now a boss mob's gonna spawn somewhere. Oh, it's just a berserker? That's weird. Must be randomized maybe? I don't actually know. So we can go back. Ormus wants the Gidbin, which he puts up here on the little pedestal. I believe the context of the quest, it's something like it's helping to build a force field. That's why Kurast isn't getting overwhelmed. And similar to rescuing Cain, he gives you a ring, although his ring is gold text, yellow text, whatever you want to call it, the rare text. Which percentage attack rating and a bit of damage reduction is probably better than 5 life, so I'm just going to call that a win. Do not need greed charms or rings. Let's get stock up on scrolls. I think it is Lam Eisen's Tome is the quest that gives discounts to the town. Ashira there, talking to her, I believe it makes some of the Iron Wolves offer their services for free, so you can get a wider selection of them as well, something like that. But we're sticking with our main man here, Mr. Spearman. So down here, I believe, I don't remember if this is the start of Will-o'-the-Wisps. I know there are the swamp monster guys that are in the water, but I can't remember what all the enemies are. As far as I recall, there is no waypoint for the Flayer dungeon, so we're not looking for one of those. These bats have a lightning attack. It's usually not too bad. Just gonna try and keep sticking to corners just so we don't get overwhelmed. All strategies I've been conditioning myself to do in the previous acts already. Here's the Lord of the Rings Watcher in the Water type scenario. Here's a ton of darts. As I mentioned, I feel pretty confident that we can take out the basic units. It's the shamans that are dangerous. Which, there he is up there. More gems. Hopefully our merc takes him out there. There we go. We did level up. I think we need to start getting more strength to wear the higher level equipment. Here are 22. The only real skill we're going to get at 24 is Holy Shield. So we don't really need to hold on to any points. I'd just keep upgrading Sacrifice to maximize your damage. Also, I know there is a heavy argument to just sucking up not being able to equip the highest level armor and just maximizing vitality instead, just because usually what you're keeping your items for isn't necessarily just the stock defense it gives, but something else, like for example all the affixes on these gloves. That's what you're keeping it for, not the fact that it has a bit higher armor or anything like that. So I know that is a legitimate possibility, but I usually like to have just a bit extra to make sure I can equip most of the stuff. Luckily we've been running into a lot of plus strength stuff, so even though we've been trying to go even on our stats, we've had pretty good strength so far to equip everything. Now the third layer of the Flayer dungeon is always this like maze type area with very few mobs in it until you reach the actual chest that has the stuff in it. So that's why it's mostly empty here, but I'm still trying to be very careful. Oh, there they are. Hopefully our merc teleports in. Yep, there he is. Taking out the shaman for us. All sorts of traps. Luckily none seem to be really hitting us. Looks like we're gonna go all the way through this place, which I believe sometimes it pretty much forces you to do as much. There's another shaman. Down he goes. All the poison. I believe those clouds don't actually hit you unless the spike hits you. So I don't think we're getting extremely lucky. I think we're just looking a lot better than we are in this moment. Okay, so here are the boss mobs. There's most of his minions. Where's the main guy? There he is. Now I'm gonna stand back because that's a boss shaman. He is fire enchanted and he has his little flamethrower, so I'm just not gonna bother. And there they go. So that was mostly painless. And there we go, Callum's flail. So we can go back. Now I believe when the map splits, I believe you still go through the Flayer dungeon to find what you're looking for. Fairly certain, at least. I can double check, but either way, we're done for this one. So I'll see you guys in the next one.